All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott, formerly of Rankin Technical College, and as part of my YouTube channel, which you can see up on the screen right now, JPS-Jeff Teaches Programming. I currently have about 42 videos in my one playlist, which is Jeff Teaches Programming-Python. We've gone over Python keywords, some procedural Python programming, working with the major Python data structures. We've gone through object-oriented programming, and now we're on files. And previously I wrote a program where 25 numbers were generated between 0 and 100. And if the number was 0, it got put into a counter that went into a file called 0.txt. If the number was even, meaning it evenly divisible by 2, I took the number and put it into a file called evens.txt and added to an even counter. For zeros, I do have a zero counter. And for odds, I'm doing the same thing, but with odd. But I wrote that in a procedural way, and I want to rewrite that now, or try to, as an object-oriented program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my non-OOP example here, and I'm just going to grab my random01.py. I'm going to copy that to the clipboard, and just so I have it, I'm going to paste it in here. Now, I'm not going to be using it like you probably think I would be using it. All right, did I get it in there? No, I did not. Paste, there we go. All right. So, this is what I have in there right now. I'm going to grab all of this. In fact, I'm going to grab everything up to, we'll just grab all this. Grab the comment here. Copy it to the clipboard. And I'm going to try to write two classes. One class that's going to simulate my main, and one class that's going to simulate the rest of the program, for lack of better words. All right? So the one that's going to do main, I'm just going to call it, for lack of better words, this is a random number application. So I'm going to call this random number app.py. And I'm going to paste in that comment. That's all for now that I'm going to put in there. Then I'm going to write another file, or create another file, because what I want to do is I want to process these random numbers. So I'm going to create another file, and I'm going to call this one random number processor.py. All right, and in here, I'm going to start by making a class. In fact, we're going to import OS, and we're going to import random. All right, now I'm going to have my class random number processor. All right, and what I'm going to do is see how much of the old program I can bring in, or the previous program. So here will be the equivalent again of my constructor. So I'm going to have def underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and we're going to pass in self count, and let's give that a default value of 25. Lower bound, we'll just call it L bound like we did before, and we'll give that a default value of 0, and upper bound, which will give a default value of 102. Okay? All right. Now, self.count equal count. Self.lbound equals lbound. Self.ubound equals ubound. And self.numbers, these will be the random numbers, equal, and we're just going to make it an empty list. All right. So let's put some comments here. So this will be how many random numbers are generated. This is the lower bound for the random numbers. This is the upper bound, for the random numbers. And finally, again, this will be the list that holds the random numbers. Okay, so that's that. Now, the next thing I want to do is what I want to do here is I want to try to show you how similar the non-object oriented stuff and the object oriented stuff actually is. All right, so I'm going to bring up this, the random01.py. All right, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find that first file that we created, this one. So what this one is designed to do, you paste it in. Don't worry. I mean, it could be problems here with all sorts of stuff. So this is def remove this. Of course, we need self in here. All right. And in fact, let's see. There's different ways that we can do this. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to come in, and that's going to be self. And I'm going to come in, and I'm going to create, I'm going to call this files. If I can get my fingers on the right keys. So files equal, and let's make another list. And this is going to be random numbers.txt. And there will be 0.txt. That's got to be in double quotes. 0.txt. There will be evens.txt, and finally there will be odds.txt. All right, I'm specifying those files right there. So I can come in here now and say for file in files, like that. All right. Again, if exists, and that's got to be file. So does that. So does that. And so does that. So again, the first time I run this, since those files are not in here, it should come back with cannot delete file and with all the different file names on there because they don't exist. All right, but after I do it once, I should be set. All right, so there's that one. So again, that's the first one I wanted to write. Okay, then next, so let's put a comment here. It says this method will remove the program output files if these files do indeed exist. There. All right, it's basically the same one. I just changed the names instead of file name, etc., and I brought it in directly. Now, could I have passed it in? Yes. I could have passed it in from what's going to be the equivalent of our main, but I didn't do it that way. All right, so that's the first one. Next. All right, we're going to define in here. Let's call this one generate, like we did before, random numbers. And it'll need self. All right, now what did we do before? Well, in the generate random numbers before, in fact, let's bring in the comment. Oopsie. Try that again. Bring in the comment. There we go. Okay. All right, so there it is. Now what we did before, and I'm just going to copy it in. All right, we're going to have to make some changes, but I'm going to copy it in. It was just one line that we did before. So let's bring that in. All right, now it doesn't like some of the stuff. That's okay. All right. Now I'm going to get rid of the return here, and I'm going to say self.numbers equal. Now, the only thing I have to change in here is everywhere that these aren't being shown, I got to preface them with self. Dot. So we're doing the same thing we did earlier. All right. And now I'm going to return self.numbers. So we're doing the same thing, but we're doing it in an object-oriented way. All right, that's what I want to get across to you right now. So that's our generating our random numbers. All right. Next, what did we have next in here? After generating this, we had to save random numbers to a file. All right, and again, let's move this stuff over. All right, it'll save the 25 generated numbers to a file. All right, and we need self, of course, and we'll have file name. Let's come in here and give it a default value, random numbers.text. All right, okay. This I don't think is going to hurt to print that blank numbers. I'm just going to leave it there. With open file name. All right. The only thing we should have to change, I think, is self dot. Other than that, notice it's the same thing we did before. All right. So we've got that one done. So what was after save random numbers to file? It was process. Now this is pretty big, but that's okay. I'm going to grab all of it anyway. We're going to have to make quite a few changes in here. We won't need to return those things that you see down there, so I can get rid of that. All right, but let's come in here and let's paste this in. Again, I might get errors. Stuff might be, the alignment might be wrong. I don't care. All right, let's take it from the top. So we've got process numbers here. We're setting each counter to 0. We're opening this. So with open, that looks good. Then we're opening up the output files. So this is basically our input file now that we're opening for reading. These are our 3 output files that we're opening for writing. All right. Then, as it says, we want to iterate through. So we're going to do the same type of thing in here. All right. So for number and numbers, if it's 0, print, add 1. We're not writing the number out. It's just going to be writing a 0, so that'd be kind of silly. Otherwise, we do the modulo by 2. We print that it's even. We write it out to the evens file and add 1 to our counter. Otherwise, it's odd. We write that it's odd. We write it out to our odds file. We add 1 to our odds counter. That's good. We haven't had to change anything. All right. To my knowledge, I don't think we've changed a flaming thing. So let's get down to here. This is where we're printing out our final totals. All right. So if the 0 count if it's greater than 0, we're going to give the total number of zeros. Otherwise, we're going to write there no zeros were generated. Okay? Now, there's other ways we can do that, but I'm just going to do it like that. I'm going to keep the old one in there. All right? Now, as far as printing out these final totals and writing this stuff out, I'm going to get rid of this for now. All right? I'm just going to get rid of this. In fact, let's just comment the whole flaming thing out. Okay, I might need some of that. I might not need any of it. If I don't, I'll get rid of it. All right, what's the last thing to do in here? Well, that's to display this stuff. Okay. In here, I better add self. All right, it didn't change anything. I don't have any errors. Everything's cool. Now let's go ahead and bring in the last one. So as you can see, this method does this. Where are we here? We need to start it there. All right, we got a for loop here. Let's move that over. There. So we've got display file contents. All right. For file and file names, we've got the contents there. Let's rewrite this. Let's do a little bit of rewrite on this, okay? Okay, let me hit enter a few times. Again, I may not need any of that stuff. I don't know yet. Let's look. All right, so this is going to be, well, what file names do we want to, put in? Self, and then file names. But let's come in and say that that is equal to, and let's put another list in here, or a list, that says 0.text, evens.text, and finally odds.text. Okay? All right. So, for file name in file names, which again is telling it to iterate through this, print, let's do an F string here, the contents of file name are, okay, if os.path.exists file name, this will handle it. So if we don't have a file, it won't exist. So in other words, if we wouldn't have any odd numbers, we wouldn't have an odds.text type of an idea. All right, so if this we'll do a with open, and we'll open that file name, and we'll open it up and read, because that's what we want to do now. As file, and the contents will be equal to file.read. Let's do a dot strip on there just in case there's any leading or trailing blanks. And that's not contents, it's contents. So if there are contents, let's display them. All right. Otherwise, if there are not contents, we will print, let's put an F string in here, how about just this? File name does not exist. Not do not exist, does not exist. Well, there's the S that I needed for it. All right, so that'll handle that. Now, if the file doesn't exist from up here, we'll do an else, and we will print, again with an F string, the same thing we did up above. And in fact, we are creating the file, but here in this case, the file is empty. That one looks a little better. And I think we may need at the very bottom of this to just print out a blank line. And that's just so stuff will line up. All right, that should be it. So I don't think I'm going to need any of this. I can always bring it back if I do. All right, so we've got that. And it's been, you know, I've got quite a few comments, hopefully enough in here. So file, save all. Now let's go back to our random number app. This is going to look a little different from what we did before. All right, I'm going to start by saying from we will need random number process import random number processor. I think that's what we called it, right? Yeah. Let's see, is this let's see. Some of this I'm taking from the example I wrote before, and with some of it, I've actually rewritten it. So try that again. Give me a second here. I'm trying to get my stuff together. Okay, I'm going to keep it like this for now. Hopefully that error is going to work its way out in just a bit, but if it doesn't, I'll make any changes I have to make accordingly. So this will be class, random number app. All right, def, we're going to call run here. We're going to put in self. And now I want to say what I want to have happen. All right, this is a random number processor. So I'll call it RN processor equals random number processor. Now, I could leave this blank because I did put the default values in there, but let's put it anyway, 25, 0, and 100. Okay. All right. Okay. Again, I did default this, but let's put it in there anyway. For this one and for the next one. And if this doesn't work, I'll take a little break and see if I can make it work. And spell that wrong. And again, we did default these, but I think we did, but just in case. All right. And that's going to have to be in a list. Okay. And finally, as we've done before, and this will be a little different, but if underscore underscore name underscore underscore equals underscore underscore main underscore underscore underscore. Now in the past we've just called main. We're not going to do it like that here. Whoops, sorry. Okay. Instead, we can call this whatever we want, but it's an app, so we'll just call app equal random number app, and then we'll tell it to run. App.run. That's it. Now, I'm going to go over all of it in just a minute, but it doesn't like that. I don't know why. So file, save all. Let's run it and see if anything happens. Okay. All right. Line 31. I think that's the line that we put in here from there. This has got to be the name of the file. There we go. I don't know why I did it like that. Let's clear this and try it again. All right. In the best case scenario, I'm going to get output like I've done when I ran the program before. All right. Well, now it's not terrible here. I've got RN processor. It says it has no saved numbers to file. Should be save random numbers to file. Okay, not a problem. So where we've got this save numbers to file, it should be save random numbers to file. Save all. Let's come back in here again. Let's clear this. Let's bring this up. Let's run it and pray that it all works. All right. Well, that's okay. We're farther. All right. Cannot delete random numbers.txt as it does not exist. Same with 0. Same with even. And those are correct because it's the first time we've run this. All right. Now, it doesn't like app.run right here. And in line 43 says it has no process numbers because that's probably process random numbers. All right, so let's check and see if that was the error. All right. Closing in on getting this one done. All right, still not a problem. All right, app.run has no process random numbers. So what did I call that in here? I did call it process numbers. Well, it doesn't. There's a few things in here that are grayed out. Not sure why. And here as well, as you can see. So I got that process random numbers. I don't have that in there. So I can change that. I don't have to, but I can change that in here to process random numbers. I need self. This is our input file. So again, we can say equal oh my goodness, random numbers.txt, but that's not going to solve the problem. Process random numbers. File, let's save all, let's try it again. So we'll clear, run this again. Running the wrong file. All right, it is going through the first part. So it still doesn't like line 49. It says random processor has no process random numbers. And I'll tell you what that could mean. When we call it here, process random numbers, we're passing that in. And that is what it's expecting. Oh, goodness. Let's sit and talk for a minute about what this program is doing. All right? So how does the program work? Okay? Well, the first thing we're doing here is we're telling it this is the initialization. We're telling it to instantiate a random number processor, or instantiate the random number process or class. Call the object, how about call the instantiated object Rn for random number processor. Okay, so that's the first thing we're doing right there. All right, next, and this appears to be working. So next we want to remove call method to remove random numbers.txt, 0.txt, evens.txt, and odds.txt if indeed any of these exist. Okay, that appeared to be working. Next, we wanted to generate our random numbers. So, generate 25 random numbers between each between 0 and 100. Okay, that looks right. So if we go over here to the generate random numbers, yep, nothing passed in there, nothing passed in there. Those are both correct. So next, we've got our save random numbers. So we want to save the 25 generated random numbers to a text file named random numbers.txt. Okay, that looks like it was working. It's screwing up here under this RN processor. All right. So there's a problem someplace. There's a problem in here. All right. So we want to say RN processor.process random numbers, and we can pass it in the name of the file. I don't see anything that looks wrong there. Process random number self, and then file name equal, and we've got that in there. Okay, this is the one that it doesn't like. Ah, there's a problem there. The tabbing was wrong. So I'll bet you it doesn't understand any of this routine whatsoever. So let's move that over one, and let's see if that fixed it. So file, save all, and this method will process the random number file. It will figure out how many zeros were generated, how many even numbers were generated, and how many odd numbers were generated. Okay, that's correct. And finally, this last thing will display that stuff. Okay, let's see if I fixed it, made it worse, or whatever. Should have known that with the error that I was getting here. So clear. Let's move this up. Let's run our random numbers app. Hey. Okay. The file was removed. These didn't exist because they were junk previously. My odds and my evens are getting created correctly. There should be 25 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I think that one is the 15th. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. We even have a 0. All right, the contents, now 0.text is empty. That is not correct. We should have that. So that is wrong. The even contents, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And the contents of here, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay? So everything is working with the exception of the 0 is not right. So let's take a look at the 0. So that would be in here. I can now get rid of this. So I no longer need this random 01 file. Okay, good. All right, let's close this. Come back to here. And again, in here, we got to check when we've got the 0. If the number is 0, print 0 is not odd or even. 0 count should be getting in there, should be getting incremented. In here, there should be contents in there that should be writing that. It should be writing this and incrementing the 0 count. Okay, print contents. And we can print in here printing the contents is fine. That's fine. I'm starting to make this harder than it has to be. So let's see. File name is empty, but it's not empty. I'm going to run this a few times. Of course, you got to run the right one. But there it says that, they've been removed. That's good. There were no zeros, so that should say that it's empty. There's the contents, and there's the contents. Let's run it again. All right, I'm trying to get a 0 to be outputted here. Of course, now you don't get one. Running it a bunch of times. It's working every time. Except it's not giving me a 0. I could force one in there. I don't want to do that. I'm looking for a 0 to be basically set up once in here to make sure that it's being handled, but I still don't think it is. Other than that, everything appears to be working okay. Boy, oh boy. A lot of ways I can handle this. I could just remove 0 and just use odds and evens, or I could make 0 an even number. All right, but I'm trying to generate a 0, and for some reason it's not letting me do this. Zero is not odd or even, but it's saying 0.text is empty. That is not correct. Let's double check. So 0.text, yeah, there's nothing in there. That's not right. Let's see if we can fix that. Oops. So the error is in here. We don't need that. Not doing anything with the count, and I think I did print that out before. This is wrong. Let's see if the file name is empty. File.read. Nothing is being written there. I can understand why it's doing this, because I'm not checking is I'm checking if there's contents in the file. I'm not writing that out. So let's see. Okay, I'm going to say here, so it's kind of a versus but way of doing it, but I'm going to do it this way anyway. I'm going to say if 0 count equals 0, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to write and I'm going to say 0 file dot write, and I'm going to put no zeros were generated. I want to do that outside of the for loop. So let's try that. File save. Oops. File save. Come back to here and run this. Now I'm getting no zeros were generated. Were there any generated? Now I've got to run it and keep doing this until I do get a 0 to make sure that it doesn't say no zeros were generated. Okay, there is a 0. No, the contents it's saying 0.text is empty. I guess you could look at it that actually that is true because it's just got that error message in it. I don't like the way that works, but I'm going to put up with it for lack of better words right now. All right, so that is my example here for the second one. Not great, but if it makes you feel any better, so let's do a file save here. Get rid of this, and a file save here, and get rid of this. What I'm planning on doing next is going back into the Python OOP bank and finding the one with inheritance. So I'm going to copy this, and I would like to try to rewrite that, but rewrite that with files. So let me get rid of this. Good. All right, so what I just did then was in my Python files, in my bank file, so the random number not OOP is done. The random number OOP is done. All right, maybe they're not fantastic, but they're functional. And I'm going back here to the bank file.oop, and I would like to add into this file handling. All right, so I plan on doing that next. And just so you know, and I haven't even looked at this yet, but all right, SQLite tutorial. I'm going to look at this. Okay, and here we've got SQLite database with Python full course. That's an hour long. I might watch that. Because what I want to do after I get done with this last example with files is to go to databases. Because databases are actually used much more often than regular text files. All right, so I think I'm going to watch that, and then I'll come back and go over that with you at that time. All right, see you again soon.